Chris Sale's career is a roller coaster that nobody can seem to get off. For the first half of his career, he was an untouchable ace, mowing down hitters like it was going out of style. So, how did he become an overpriced liability in the blink of an eye? And then, just when everyone had written him off as a washed-up, injury-prone shell of his former self, he pulls off a comeback season that nobody saw coming. First, let's go back to the early days. Sale grew up in Lakeland, Florida, and was a standout at an early age. He was drafted 21st overall out of high school, but decided not to sign and instead went to college not far from his hometown at Florida Gulf Coast University. His phenomenal numbers in college and summer leagues got him drafted 13th overall by the Chicago White Sox in the 2010 draft. The team wasted no time throwing him into the fire, sending him straight to the big leagues that same year. As a reliever, he was unhittable. The wiry lefty had a slider that made the best of hitters look like confused little leaguers. Then, things only got better for Sale when he became a starter in 2012. Cue the domination. For 7 straight years, Sale was an all-star, and it wasn't up for debate. And he didn't just strike people out, he humiliated them. His numbers were filthy. Ks per 9 were through the roof, an ERA consistently sitting in the low 3s or better, and an arm slot that made lefties want to quit baseball. From 2012 to 2017, the guy was a machine, and he was durable. He posted over 200 innings and 30 starts on average per season. But there was a catch. There's always a catch. Even when Sale was at his best, by the end of the season, usually around August or September, things started to go south. The velocity dipped, the command wavered, and suddenly, he wasn't quite the same pitcher. It didn't matter much, though, because the White Sox were a non-factor in the postseason conversation. He was racking up strikeouts for a team that had no prayer of playing baseball in October. Then, a trade. The Boston Red Sox come calling, and in the winter of 2016, Sale was shipped off in exchange for a haul of prospects. Boston, a city that expects nothing less than greatness, was ecstatic. He was their new ace. And Red Sox fans didn't just like him, they loved him. He wasn't only a great pitcher, he had the kind of attitude that fit Boston perfectly. Some players can't handle the demanding fans and media there, but Sale could. He never made excuses and always took the blame when things went wrong, and that made people respect him even more. Even when he got hurt or had bad games, fans still believed in him, at least for a while. For the first year and a half, Sale in a Red Sox uniform looked like a dream come true. 2017, he was dominant, but 2018 was the peak. If you were paying attention that year, you'd remember that Sale was untouchable for most of the season. For Boston fans, this was the first time since Pedro Martinez that every fifth night was must-see TV. It felt like every Sale outing was a foregone conclusion that he would give up 2 runs or less and rack up at least 10 strikeouts. His fastball was electric, his slider was unfair, and he was making hitters look clueless on a nightly basis. He was on track to win a Cy Young, but then his shoulder started barking. He missed 6 weeks from late July to early September, and while he returned for the playoffs, he wasn't the same guy. Boston rode a dominant team to a World Series title that year, but Sale was a shadow of his regular season self. He was throwing out of the bullpen in the postseason. His velocity had plummeted and control was an issue. Still, he managed to record the final out of the World Series, striking out Manny Machado to seal the deal. It looked like the start of something great, but sadly, it wasn't. Despite the glaring warning signs that his arm wasn't holding up, the Red Sox handed him a 5-year, $145 million contract extension before the 2019 season. Hindsight makes that deal look laughably bad, but at the time, Boston thought they were locking up a generational talent. What they got instead was a slow-motion disaster. 2019 was the start of the collapse. His numbers were mediocre by his standards, and by August, his elbow started acting up. The team tried to downplay it, calling it a minor issue. By September, he was shut down. They tried to avoid surgery in the offseason, but by March of the next year, he got Tommy John surgery. So much for a minor injury. The shortened 2020 season came and went without Sale throwing a single pitch. He was rehabbing. 2021, more of the same, though he did finally make it back in the second half of the season. He was fine, but not great. Then came the postseason, and that was a disaster. Another year, Another letdown when it mattered most. 2022, though, was when things really went off the rails. First, a rib fracture in the offseason meant he was out before the year even began. Then, just 2 starts into his return, a line drive shattered his pinky. Bad luck, sure. But wait, it gets worse. A month later, he somehow managed to break his wrist in a bicycle accident. You heard that correctly, a bicycle accident. At this point, the injuries weren't just a problem, they were a joke. By 2023, everyone had seen enough. Sale came back, but he was a shell of what he used to be. His numbers were atrocious, his durability was non-existent, and Red Sox Nation was officially sick of it. At that point, even his biggest fans were ready to cut bait with the former All-Star. Boston fans want results, and after years of injuries and struggles, they just couldn't keep waiting. They still respected him, but they needed to move on. That winter, the team sent him packing. The Atlanta Braves decided to take a chance, banking on a rebound. Nobody expected much. Then, suddenly, Sale flipped the script. In 2024, Chris Sale did the unthinkable. He turned back the clock. After years of being fragile and ineffective, he put together a season that left everybody stunned. His fastball velocity ticked back up, his slider regained its bite, and he led the league in strikeouts once again, reminding everyone that he was still one of the most dangerous pitchers in baseball. Beyond the numbers, Sale's leadership and veteran presence became invaluable to the Braves' young pitching staff. He mentored rising stars, passing on his knowledge of pitch sequencing, conditioning, and mental toughness. The team credited him as a pivotal force behind their strong clubhouse chemistry. The result? A Cy Young Award. That's right, the same guy who was written off as broken beyond repair ended up being the best pitcher in the league. And, for once, he actually made it through a full season without a catastrophic injury. Well, almost. Just before the postseason arrived, Sale was a last-minute scratch from his final start of the season against the Mets due to back issues. He then had to sit on the sidelines and watch the Braves fall to the Padres 2-0 in the Wild Card Series. Once again, a dominant year for Chris Sale was cut short due to injury. But despite this end-of-season hiccup, Sale managed to redefine his career trajectory. He wasn't just a pitcher making a comeback. He was a pitcher who had rediscovered his dominance. To fully appreciate Sale's turnaround, one has to understand just how rare it is for a pitcher to overcome the level of injuries and setbacks he faced. His ability to adapt, refine his mechanics, and embrace a smarter training regimen contributed immensely to his revival. But here's the real question. Will Chris Sale's resurgence be remembered as one of the greatest comebacks in baseball history, or just a fleeting resurgence before the inevitable decline? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the game's biggest stories.